Insights, people. My name is Matt Valley, and welcome to episode number 88 of the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories and side gigs of the research, insights, and analytics pros that you trust. Now, I'm super excited today to welcome Anh Tran to today's podcast. Now, Anh has a BA in marketing from Seattle University, and she's currently a grad student in the MSMR program, that's Master of Science in Marketing Research, at the University of Texas at Arlington, which is about 20 minutes down the road from me. And she's graduating in May, so there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Now, how cool is that? Now, I first met Anh last year at a UT Arlington event, and I should say that I'm involved in the advisory board for the UT Arlington. Very honored to do that. And she has the distinction of actually having seen my band play. We were playing at a stinky venue near the UT Arlington campus one night, and I see Anh come in, and she's still talking to me, so it must not have been so bad. But now I have recently learned that Anh is really an exceptionally talented street photographer. I've seen some of her work. It's really amazing. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's episode, so welcome to the show, Anh.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for your kind words.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited to have you, and thank you for your kind words about my band that you didn't say. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, totally kidding. Totally kidding. So let's talk research, Anh. So you studied marketing at the undergrad level, and you made the decision to further your studies in the market research space. So tell us about that.
So ever since I was a kid, like I'm really curious about things around me, and especially like just visual arts like thing. I always constantly like look at the product and always question people around me, like why is it red? Like why is it blue? Why is it forming this way? Like why is it like this? What's like the point of it? And then I'm just kind of like put it in the back of my head and don't really think about it as much. So I do still have that like creative side of myself. So when I go to college and I was like, what should I do? And I was always pondering that questions a lot. And I decided that I want to pursue something in marketing. So because it's a good blend between like a little bit of analytical thinking and also a little bit of creative side. And also like marketing, I feel like it gives me the space to be able to also express my creativity in some sort of way. So I got my degree in marketing, and then after that, I worked in a few jobs in the marketing industry. But most of the jobs that I did are related to like social media managing, creating content, copywriting. Um,
Yeah.
but definitely at some point, I started to feel like a deep sense of craving to learn more. And I wanted to do more than just creating content. I
Yeah.
want to do more than just executing creative stuff, even though there's a sense of pleasant and like comfort in like doing those kind of tasks because it's relatively easy. But I want to challenge myself more. And I was like, I have to go out there. I have to figure this out, like, because I don't want to just doing this forever. I don't see myself doing like social media or like content creating for a long time. And then I happened to talk to this lady. She is she's already very established in her career in marketing and in market research in general.
Okay.
And I was talking to her, and I kind of like poured my heart out about like how I feel very clueless, like how I wanted to make it career change, but I don't know where to go. And then we were like talking a lot about like just like she would just asking me a lot of questions about like she wanted to know like who I am, like and she was like, what really takes you? And then I shared her about like my personality and my curiosity side of my personality. And I told her that like I don't know why, but I don't think that I get to use a lot of that side of things when I do some of the previous job in marketing, and she was just like, "Have you ever heard of market research?" And I was like, "What is that?" And then she told me, she shared me like her whole like career path. Like she told me a lot about like actually like she works for a flavor company where they actually like selling
Ah,
flavors and those kind of
right.
things. And she told me like a stories about like how she worked on this project. They trying to figure out what the next ice cream flavor to put out into the market. And
Yeah.
I was it just like I feel like I encountered I just had this big epiphany slash showing serendipity moment in my life. I was just like, wow, I think this is it. Like I think I'm gonna go for this because I always have I also find myself like walking on the aisle in this like the grocery store and like seeing ice cream packaging and I'm like, I'm wondering how did they get to put this Rocky Mountain flavor in
Yeah.
here or this cookie and cream? Like, where is that coming from? I always thought that is probably some food scientist that created this flavor and decided to
Yeah.
put it on the market. But actually, I didn't know that there's a lot of like data, a lot of analyzing, a lot of just digging into the consumer insights to decide like which flavor to put out into the market.
Yeah.
So she suggested me to apply for grad school in marketing research, and that's what I did. And the rest is history. That's how
Excellent.
I, yeah, that's how I get into market research.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I've had the good fortune of working on a lot of studies like that, where you're exploring flavor trends and design trends, and then applying them to adjacent industries, or in some cases, not even adjacent, but just borrowing. What is the general zeitgeist liking these days, right? And it's very interesting to see how some of those travel across categories.
Mhm.
It's very cool. Awesome. Excellent. Well, welcome to the research space. It's great to have you here. Um,
Thank you so much.
Now, somewhere along the way, you mentioned your creative side. Interested to know how you got into photography, and you've obviously spent a lot of time and effort honing your skill there as well.
Mhm. So my interest for photography starts when I was actually pretty young. My parents loved taking photos of my family, and especially me and my sister.
Yeah.
Some of my cousin also loved taking photos too. So as a young kid, I got to play with different types of image capture devices. I remember like holding this very old 35 millimeters like camera is and also it's like my dad's like camcorder. I get to play with it like all the time.
Yeah.
Because of that, like I just naturally picked up photography just for fun. But I don't really I didn't really take it seriously until I moved out of home for college here in the States. I remember my first summer, it was back in 2017. So I got back home for summer break, and usually it's like our ritual to. So we have like a suitcase like full of photos that my dad and my mom like took for us, and we
Yeah.
usually just like
Old
flip
school.
through it. Yeah. So during the break, like I remember like looking into those photos a lot, and I just thought to myself, I was like, this is really cool. And I also want to have a suitcase full of memories like this too. So I can show it to maybe my friends and then my mom and dad, and then also my kids like later in the future too. Um, so I think I was 19 at the time. And so I decided to actually just record my journey as I'm like entering my 20s. I was like, I want to take photos of everything that I encountered, like things that I
Yeah.
experience, people that I meet, food that I eat. Like I want to capture it all. So that's how
Yeah.
I started, like really started like street photography.
Cool, cool. So let me ask you something, because I remember my wife studied photography back in the day, and I remember when I met her, it kind of felt like, hey, anybody could take a picture, right? And it's totally not true. So I'm curious if can you develop your eye, if you will, or is it just something that comes naturally?
I think most of the technical stuff, or even like any skill you can develop if you put a lot of hours into it. I think it's just like I'm always intrigued by the visual arts. I love arts. I love photos. I love all kind of that thing. So
Yeah.
I remember just spending hours looking into magazines, and also at the same time, myself, my cousin's really into photography too. So um I was very lucky in terms of I have someone to kind of show me the proper way to take photos. But at the same time, I feel like because of my love for art and my passion for art, I just look into a lot of photos, and I think somewhat that helped me to develop my sense of style a little bit.
Right.
And I remember when I was around like 18, 19, when I first moved to America, I remember going to a lot of bookstore, and I saw a lot of National Geographic magazine. And that's when it just hit for me about how they just tell the story through just an image. And I remember just seeing those
Yeah.
images and the photos, and um, it makes me really emotional. So that's when I think because of that too, really helped to shape my passion and also my skill. And like I was like, I really want to take good photos. I want to tell a story through those kind of things. So I just naturally picked up a lot of magazines and just a lot of medias to enhance my skill. But also at the same time, I did spend a lot of times in the past just go into public space and taking a bunch of photos. That definitely helps a lot with in terms of um, learning how to frame your photos, like the compositioning. And
Right.
I also watch a good amount of YouTube videos on how to edit and stuff, even though I'm not the best in terms of editing. But yeah, I definitely think that you can definitely build your sense of style and your skill with time and a lot of effort.
Yeah, and you use the word emotional. And having seen some of your work, I was struck by the fact that I could feel myself in the situation, right? Almost like a good story or a good song can transport you to another world, right? You're just pulled in and you can feel what it's like to be in there. So it's clear that that's translated into your work. So that's very, very cool. So tell me, is there any similarity that you see between, let's say, your interest in photography and then your interest in research?
I think both photography and market research share one thing in common, and that is they both require keen sense of observation.
Yeah,
I think for photography, I usually take a good amount of time to just sit at a corner of like a place, for example, like a coffee shop, and
yeah,
then I just look around myself, just kind of absorb the energy of the environment, and then just kind of see what's like happening around me. And if I see a great moment, then I'm gonna capture it. And same for market research too. I feel like in order for you to gain like a good insights, um, you always have to have like a keen sense of observation for like a lot of things around you, like not only like the market trend, but also like your target segment that you're like going to study. Um, so yeah, that is the number one thing. The second thing is that I love how both photography and market research encourage me um, to keep an open mind to things.
right.
And what I mean by that is sometimes I feel like whenever I approach like photography or like market research, I'm always kind of have like a fixed mindset. I was like, okay, like this is my objective. This is what I really want to get from like my activity, which is like taking photos or even conduct research.
Right.
I want it to be like this. Like I want the outcome to be like this. But sometimes I feel like that definitely stopped me a lot from just seeing more than just that, to like dig deeper into like why things the way they are. And yeah, so I love how like sometimes um I can just like sit back and just like slow down a little bit, keep myself like just have an open mind to to things around me, and then not letting like any like the end goal keeping me from just digging deeper and just experience more, to enjoy like the process a lot more. Um and the third thing and the last thing that really, really helps me in my career as like a future market researcher is that the how photography helps me to really like get used to um, just being adaptable in changing circumstances.
Right.
Because in street photography, there's not a single moment that you're like on like a busy street that is like not like changing. There's a bunch of things, there's a million things that happens around you. And if you want to capture great moments, like sometimes not only you have to keep an open mind, but you also have to be adaptable in order to just capture like an essence of a moment. I think like same for market research too, because
Yep.
the nature of market research is changing all the time, and you really have to adapt to a lot of things, because maybe sometime during a research process like you decided to shifting your research objectives, or
Yeah.
there's a market conditions that's like changing, or there's some data collection challenges, or like there is some expected changes in the survey condition. You have to think on the fly, you have to be adaptable to in order to think about a way to really like fix the situation and just move forward. So definitely for me, the top three are the keen sense of observation, an open mind, and adaptability. Like for sure.
Yes, yes, I totally love that because frequently the beauty of research is you go into it and you have learning objectives, right? You've got expected outcomes. You might have hypotheses going into the research that you do, and so ahead of time what you plan to do once you get the results. But if you don't keep your mind open, you're going to miss those opportunities to learn something that is unexpected, that you didn't anticipate, especially like you were talking about observational research, uh, you know, ethnography, things like that. You might have an
Mhm.
idea of what you want to accomplish, and then all of a sudden you see typical habits emerging that you had no preconceived notion about, that might change your whole idea about how you might approach a category, for example. So important to keep your mind open while you're addressing the questions at hand. I love that.
For sure.
Um, so in your time at UT Arlington, and what you've learned thus far, and as you're thinking about the future of research, interested to know what trends are perhaps most intriguing to you, or things that have really struck you.
I think lately I've been really intrigued by AI.
Yeah.
I come from a background with very little interaction to technology in general, and I don't think that I interact and know a lot about technology until I moved to the US and like just go to college, and then just interacted with like a lot of like technologies and devices. Um, and lately, ChatGPT has been a huge thing. And I've never have thought that I would be so invested in ChatGPT. So I did try it out myself. I want to test it out. I want to see the legitimacy of ChatGPT. And actually, I'm very impressed with like what it can do. It just is like capability of like just doing a lot of things.
Yep.
And so lately, I've been also following the founder and CTO of HubSpot, Damish Shah. And I think after the ChatGPT trend took off, he also created a platform called ChatSpot.ai. It is a combination of ChatGPT and HubSpot CRM. And I remember watching his video, and he just walking through the demo, and he explaining a few use cases and how this platform can help a lot of user of HubSpot CRM to just do like a lot of tasks. So
Sure.
you're just thinking about the user experience side of things. Like usually we have to click a bunch of buttons. You have to go through multiple steps in order to crank out a result. But here you can just type in, just like ChatGPT, to just put in like a natural language of phrases, like, hey,
Right.
help me to, for example, see the trend in like this year, for example. And I was really impressed with it. And that makes me
Yeah.
really questions about um, how AI can affect just the market research industry in general.
Yeah.
And I did read some research online, and I came across this research by Qualtrics. So Qualtrics surveys 200 something market researcher decision makers
Yeah.
to ask how they feel about AI and just kind of see how they think AI will impact the industry in general. And there's a good amount of very interesting insights that I read. And it's not really surprising to me how AI will like, or we hand off to AI a good amount of like quantitative tasks like data cleaning or even data analytics. I think it makes me really just think about like how it will impact our industry in general, and how I am as like a potential market researcher, like how it
Yeah.
will play into my role and how it will help me in my career in general, and just more like strategically, what should I do in my career path to just succeed in the role that I'm going to take. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. First of all, I think that's the right way to think about it, which is how will this help me versus, oh my God, this is going to replace me, which is the first thing that a lot of people think of. But I think it's going to be an assistant in a way, like you described. Also, Ray Pointer from New MR, also from ESOMAR, just did a presentation like a week or two ago, 2 weeks maybe, on the specific applications of ChatGPT to market research. I'll share it with you after, but thought I would mention it here for those who hadn't seen it. It's really a fascinating report to see how well it can like get to the 80 for the 20, right? In terms of writing a questionnaire or developing personas or doing secondary research. It was really quite impressive as a tool. So we'll see where that goes for sure. For sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I remember that I'm really surprised by how, like, after I read this research and seeing a lot of people have a good and positive feelings towards AI too, instead of just like you said, like instead um we usually might have the tendency to view it as a threat, but a lot of people in the market research world view it as like an opportunity to learn
Yeah.
and grow. So I'm also really excited for that.
Super cool. All right. So on obviously you are consuming media that is helping to inform your perspective in this space. So when you think about media in general, any kind of media, what do you turn to for insights, inspiration, or enjoyment? Big, broad question. What media are you consuming?
This is a really good question. I do consume a good amount of media on a daily basis. Lately, I have been really interested in neuroscience, psychology, social science.
Sure.
So I've been reading a book called "The Body Keeps the Score" by psychiatrist Bezo van der Kolk. It talks
Interesting.
about
I don't know that one.
yeah, it talks about the long lasting effects of trauma and how we can heal from them. It's a super interesting book. It talks a lot about like neuroscience and the brain in general. So I learned a lot from it. I also been listening to two of my favorite podcasts called Hidden Brain and Invisibilia from NPR.
Yep.
They both kind of have like the similar concept of like um, discover the unconscious part in of our brain, and like what drives our like emotions, beliefs, like perception, how we shape our reality and perception to the world. Super interesting stuff. I also love watching videos from these two YouTube channels. It's called Big Think, and
Yep.
another one called I'm having a hard time pronounce the channel because it's actually German, but is I believe is is Kurzgesagt. It's basically like,
Kurzgesagt.
yes, thank you so much for helping me with that because I struggle this for so like, even though I love the channel, but I can't never pronounce it for some reason. Yeah, I love watching all of the videos and all the contents they have. It's not only very educational, but at the same, it's very thought provoking. It helps me to not only understand the world around me, but it they both also give me the space to like reflect and challenge my own beliefs and thoughts, and also just broaden my worldview in general. So love all of
Yeah.
that content.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
make sure you you write NPR because you might have heard that they are making some cuts to their podcasting schedule, and if I recall correctly, Invisibilia was one of those cuts. So make sure you
I
let them
know.
know that that's a problem.
I know. I definitely need to let them know for sure. I've been waiting for the new episode on Visibilia, but patiently waiting.
Yeah,
Um, I another thing that I really love is I love visual arts. So naturally, I just love magazine in general.
yeah,
I love looking at. Lately, I've been reading a lot of Japanese fashion magazines because
yeah,
I'm also a big fan of fashion at the same time. And I also love National Geographic magazine too.
yeah.
I actually collect like a few. And just been reading the same thing all over again, but I'm not bored of it. Is amazing. And the last one, I don't think this is definitely not necessarily like a form of media, but I learn a lot with interacting with the real world. So I have been very intrigued and invested in the world of designing and branding in general. So I love like going to the grocery store or just like a mall, or just I just go to like a park or something kind of and just like people watch like people around me and then interact with like products and then just kind of like sit there and wondering like how just observing people and just see like how people interact with like certain products, why people design this
Yeah.
thing like this. So yeah, those are my go-to media for enjoyment, for inspiration and for insights.
Yeah, there's something innate, that kind of curiosity about the interaction with products or media or the design of things that just seems to be a common denominator in insights people. So that's awesome to hear. All right,
Yes.
so we haven't talked rock and roll here yet on so. But we have to, right? It's a rock and roll research podcast. You can't escape it. So speaking of escaping, let's say you've escaped to a desert island where you're going to spend the rest of your days, right? Um, and you have three records of your choosing to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are
This is honestly one of the hardest questions. Because I'm also a big fan of music too. So this question is honestly really hard for me. And also I was just wondering like how much can I cheat with this question?
they?
Because
Everybody
um
tries to cheat this one. What
yeah,
does three mean? Come on, no. Go ahead.
yeah. Um I I would hope that like I can create a mixtape with the record player. So definitely if I can cheat with that, I would love to bring with me this Motown records. Like they have all of the greatest hits from the
Yeah,
60s, 70s, 80s,
right
because
on.
I'm a big sucker for love music from that era. It's really
Yeah,
wholesome.
me
Um,
too.
yeah, so I would love to bring that record for sure because I remember the last time I was in the vinyl record store, I see one of them and they have around like 20 songs. And I was, like I'm gonna be good with this one and I can make like a bunch of mixtapes with this on record. So definitely
Ah,
that's my number one choice.
okay,
The
we'll call that Motown Greatest Hits.
yes.
Okay, very good.
um the second one, I would choose Sunday at the Village Vanguard by Bill Evans Trio. I
Okay,
love jazz. I am
yeah,
an avid listener of jazz. And this is very biased, the most like the best jazz records slash albums in the whole world.
Yeah.
I think what really I choose this album because this is actually a live album, and if you really pay attention closely to the quality, you can actually hear some ambient noise
Yes.
beside like the music. Like you can hear like the cup clinking, you can hear people chatting, and I
Yes.
think like if I'm alone on a deserted island, honestly, I would crave just hearing people around me. I'm gonna miss that a lot. So not only the music is good, but that little nuance, like detail, definitely gonna help me through like my time being alone on an
Love
island
it.
for sure.
Love it.
Um, and the third one is my this is the number one album that I can listen all over again without feeling like bored or sick of it, which is Geography by Thomas. He is a British artist, and this album have like all sorts of, it's like a good mix of different genres from jazz to funk to hip hop to soul. Um, a great album, period. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are my top three for sure.
Yeah, love it. Love it. And I really appreciated the that you mentioned being at a vinyl record store, which is actually where you saw my band play. So how cool is that? So
I
I
know, I
knew
love it so much.
I knew you were a music person on. I just knew it. So cool. Awesome. Well, this has been a great chat. I wish you the best of luck with your graduation. I hope I'll continue to see you at the UT Arlington events, like the horse races and wherever we go, the bar hopping, whatever that case may be. So I wish you the best. Let's definitely stay in touch and rock and roll.
Rock and roll.